Have you ever walked into a room and felt completely invisible? You speak, but people talk right over you. You offer an idea, and it is entirely ignored, only to be praised when someone else repeats it 5 minutes later. You bend over backward to be polite, accommodating, and helpful, yet you are constantly taken for granted. If this sounds painfully familiar, you are not alone. But you are operating under a massive delusion. You have been taught that if you are just nice enough, fair enough, and agreeable enough, the world will automatically hand you respect. That is a complete lie. Respect is never given. It is extracted. In this audiobook, we are going to dismantle the behaviors that are silently destroying your value in the eyes of others. We will build the 8 fundamental laws of high-status psychology. This is not about manipulation. This is not about demanding attention. This is about absolute self-mastery. Let us begin. Chapter 1. The Mirror Principle. We must start at the absolute foundation. Before we can talk about how you stand, how you speak, or how you interact with the outside world, we have to look entirely inward. You cannot demand from the world what you refuse to give yourself. This brings us to the first law of commanding respect. The Mirror Principle. The way the world treats you is a direct reflection of how you treat yourself. People are incredibly observant. Even if they do not consciously realize it, they are constantly scanning your behavior to determine exactly how much value you place on your own time, your own energy, and your own identity. They are looking for the baseline, and you are the one who sets that baseline. If you constantly put yourself down with self-deprecating jokes, you are handing people the ammunition to disrespect you. If you skip your workouts, eat terrible food, and refuse to invest in your own mind, you are broadcasting a loud and clear message to the universe. You are saying, "I do not believe I am worth the effort." And if you do not believe you are worth the effort, why should anyone else believe it? Let us look at the concept of internal boundaries. Most people think boundaries are only for other people, but the most important boundaries you will ever set are the ones you set with yourself. Every single time you set an alarm for 6 in the morning and then hit the snooze button until 7, you are breaking a promise to yourself. Every time you say you are going to finish a complex project and you spend 3 hours scrolling on your phone instead, you are betraying your own word. When you continually break promises to yourself, your self-esteem completely collapses. You lose trust in your own identity. You will never command the respect of a room if you cannot even command the respect of your own mind. When your self-respect is low, you naturally start to seek external validation. You start looking for other people to tell you that you are good enough. And the exact moment you need someone else's approval, you hand them all of your power. You become highly agreeable. You stop speaking your true opinions, and you start morphing your personality to fit whatever you think the room wants you to be. People can smell desperation. They can sense when someone is trying entirely too hard to be liked. And ironically, the harder you try to be liked, the less you are respected. Respect and being liked are not the same thing. In fact, they are frequently in direct opposition. To be respected, you must be entirely willing to be disliked. You must be willing to stand firmly in your own truth, even if it makes the people around you incredibly uncomfortable. People will naturally test your boundaries. They will make a subtle joke at your expense, or they will ask you to do a favor that severely inconveniences you. They do this to see how you will react. If you smile, back down, and accept the poor treatment, you have just shown them exactly where your baseline is. You have shown them your mirror. So, how do you rebuild this foundation? You start by becoming impeccably reliable to yourself. You treat your own word as absolute, unbreakable law. If you say you are going to walk for 20 minutes, you walk for 20 minutes. It does not matter if it is raining. It does not matter if you are exhausted. You do it simply because you said you would. As you stack these small, undeniable victories, your internal posture completely changes. You stop walking into rooms hoping that people will like you. Instead, you walk into rooms knowing exactly who you are, and you realize that their opinion of you is entirely irrelevant to your self-worth. Starting today, ruthlessly audit the way you treat yourself. Stop accepting mediocrity from your own actions. Hold yourself to an incredibly high standard. Because when you finally decide that you are a person of immense value, the rest of the world will have absolutely no choice but to agree with you. Chapter 2. The Weight of Silence. When you observe a high-stakes meeting or a tense negotiation, pay close attention to the person holding the most power. They are rarely the loudest person in the room. They are not the one frantically waving their hands, interrupting others, or rushing to fill every single pause with words. In fact, the most powerful person is usually the one who speaks the least. Most of us have been deeply conditioned to believe that talking equates to adding value. When we feel nervous, insecure, or challenged, our natural instinct is to start talking. We vomit words. We over-explain our choices. We offer 3 different justifications for a simple decision, hoping that if we just provide enough information, the other person will finally understand us and validate our perspective. But here is the brutal truth. Over-explaining is a subconscious plea for approval. When you offer a barrage of unprompted excuses, you are signaling to the other person that you do not believe your decision is strong enough to stand entirely on its own. You are effectively handing them the authority to judge your choices. This brings us to the second law of commanding respect. You must master the absolute weight of silence. Think about the basic economic principle of supply and demand. When a resource is incredibly abundant, its value drops to 0. When a resource is rare, its value absolutely skyrockets. Your words operate under the exact same economic law. If you are constantly talking, giving your opinion on every minor detail, and verbally reacting to every slight provocation, your words become cheap. People learn to tune you out. They subconsciously realize that they do not have to pay close attention to you, because you will eventually repeat yourself anyway. You become the background noise of the room. But when you practice verbal scarcity, everything changes. When a person who rarely speaks finally opens their mouth, the entire room leans in. Their words carry immense gravity because they do not waste their breath on trivial gossip or anxious chatter. Every single sentence they deliver feels deliberate, calculated, and highly important. Silence is not empty. It is full of answers, and it is full of absolute authority. You must learn to become completely comfortable with the void. The next time someone asks you a difficult question, do not rush to answer it in a panic. Take 3 full seconds of absolute silence. Look them directly in the eyes. Let the tension hang in the air. This deliberate pause communicates profound confidence. It tells the other person that you are completely unbothered by the pressure and that you are carefully choosing your response. Furthermore, when you do respond, make your answer as concise as humanly possible. State your position, make your point, and then simply stop talking. Put a hard period at the end of your sentence. Do not add a nervous laugh. Do not ask them if that makes sense. Just deliver the message, close your mouth, and let the silence do the heavy lifting for you. This is especially critical during a conflict or a disagreement. When someone challenges you, their goal is to pull you into a highly emotional debate. If you defensively explain yourself, you lose. If you raise your voice to match their chaotic energy, you lose. But if you remain completely calm, offer a brief, firm boundary, and refuse to engage in a lengthy argument, you win. You strip them of their power simply by denying them your energy. Silence is the ultimate weapon of the highly respected. It projects a quiet, unshakable strength that cannot be easily manipulated. Starting today, I challenge you to speak 30% less than you normally do. Stop filling the gaps. Let other people do the nervous talking. Sit back, observe carefully, and let the immense weight of your silence command the room. Chapter 3. The Currency of Integrity. Let us talk about currency. When you hear that word, you immediately think of money. But in the realm of human interaction, the most valuable currency you possess is not in your bank account. It is your integrity. It is the absolute reliability of your word. In a modern society where almost everyone is flaky, unreliable, and prone to making empty promises, a person who actually does exactly what they say they are going to do becomes a highly respected anomaly. We have all dealt with lightweight people. These are the individuals who agree to every meeting, promise to help you with a project, and swear they will attend your event. But when the time actually arrives, they are nowhere to be found. They send a text message 10 minutes beforehand with a highly fabricated excuse. They think they are preserving the relationship by being agreeable and avoiding a direct no. But in reality, they are completely destroying their own reputation. This brings us to the third law of commanding respect. Your word must be absolute law. Every single time you make a commitment and fail to deliver, you are actively devaluing your identity. You are teaching the people around you that your words are entirely meaningless. If your words mean nothing, then by extension, your presence means nothing. People will smile at you, they will be polite to you, but they will never, ever respect you. They will bypass you for promotions, and they will leave you entirely out of important decisions. Trust is built in drops and lost in buckets. When your word loses its weight, you lose your power. To command ultimate respect, you must adopt a policy of ruthless integrity. This means you must become incredibly careful about the promises you make. Do not agree to things simply to make the other person feel comfortable in the present moment. If you are not 100% certain that you can deliver, do not make the commitment. It is infinitely better to give a respectful, firm no today than to deliver a highly disappointing failure tomorrow. Respect is born from honesty, not from people-pleasing. Integrity is not just about massive, life-altering commitments. It is built and tested in the micro-promises of your daily routine. If you tell a colleague you will send them an email in 5 minutes, you must send that email in exactly 5 minutes. If you tell a friend you will meet them for dinner at 7, you are sitting at the table at 5 minutes to 7. You must treat these small, seemingly insignificant commitments with the exact same gravity as a multi-million-dollar contract. Why? Because the brain does not distinguish between a small lie and a large lie. A broken promise is a broken promise. When you operate with this level of unyielding reliability, something profound begins to happen to the way people perceive you. People stop second-guessing your intentions. When you speak, they believe you instantly, because you have built a massive, undeniable track record of truth. You become a steady anchor in an otherwise chaotic world. And human beings naturally respect and follow the person who stands completely firm. Stop handing out empty words. Protect your commitments fiercely. Never make a promise you do not intend to keep. Master your word, and the world will have absolutely no choice but to respect your presence. Chapter 4. The Boundary Line. There is a massive misconception in our society about what it means to be a good person. We are taught that to be liked, to be valued, and to be considered a team player, we must be endlessly accommodating. We must say yes to every request, absorb every inconvenience, and constantly put the needs of others entirely above our own. But let us be brutally honest about human psychology. People do not respect a doormat. They might find a doormat highly convenient, and they will certainly wipe their feet on it, but they will never look up to it. When you lack boundaries, you do not become a hero. You become a resource to be entirely depleted. This brings us to the fourth law of commanding respect. You must master the absolute mechanics of saying no. When you cannot say no, your yes loses all of its value. If people know that you will eventually cave to their demands simply because you want to avoid conflict, they will push you until you break. They will negotiate with your time, your energy, and your self-worth. To command ultimate respect, you must build a fortress around your priorities, and the word no is the heavy steel door to that fortress. However, the way you deliver that no is exactly what separates the highly respected from the deeply insecure. Most people ruin their boundaries because of how they communicate them. When they finally try to say no, they panic. They wrap the word in 3 layers of desperate apologies. They invent elaborate excuses, shifting their weight, avoiding eye contact, and practically begging the other person for forgiveness. When you apologize for setting a boundary, you are subconsciously communicating that you are doing something terribly wrong. You are telling the other person that you do not believe you actually have the right to protect your own time. You never need to apologize for refusing to set yourself on fire just to keep someone else warm. A highly respected individual delivers a no with complete emotional neutrality. It is not an attack. It is not a negotiation. It is simply a statement of objective fact. You look the person in the eye, and you deliver a firm, polite, and unyielding response. You simply say, "I cannot commit to this right now," or "That does not work for my schedule." And then, exactly as we discussed in Chapter 2, you stop talking. You do not fill the silence with justifications. You do not leave the door open for them to suggest an alternative day or time. If you offer a fabricated excuse, like saying you are too busy on Thursday, the manipulator will immediately ask you about Friday. But when you deliver a clean, unexplainable boundary, there is absolutely nothing for them to argue against. At first, this will feel incredibly uncomfortable. The people who are used to taking advantage of your endless generosity will push back. They might act offended. They might try to make you feel guilty. They will test the electric fence to see if the power is actually turned on. You must hold the line. Do not get angry and do not get defensive. Simply repeat your boundary. The moment they realize that your wall is made of solid concrete and not wet paper, their behavior toward you will completely change. People inherently respect boundaries. When they see that you value your own time and energy enough to protect it fiercely, they will naturally begin to value it as well. They will start asking for your time respectfully, rather than simply demanding it. Drop the desperate need to be agreeable. Stop apologizing for protecting your peace. Learn to draw a massive line in the sand and watch how quickly the world adjusts to the new standard you have set. Chapter 5. Emotional Armor. We live in an incredibly reactive society. At the slightest provocation, people completely lose their minds. They raise their voices, they send angry messages, and they allow a single negative comment to completely destroy their entire day. They operate like puppets on a string, entirely at the mercy of whatever external event happens to pull on them. But here is a fundamental truth about human dynamics. The person who loses emotional control always loses the power. If someone can easily trigger your anger, your anxiety, or your frustration, they completely own you. You have essentially handed them the remote control to your nervous system. They can make you dance, they can make you yell, and they can make you look entirely foolish, simply by pushing a few psychological buttons. This brings us to the fifth law of commanding respect. You must build an absolute emotional armor through the power of non-reaction. When people disrespect you, challenge you, or insult you, they are usually fishing for a specific response. They want to see you break. They want to see you aggressively defend yourself, raise your voice, or scramble to justify your position. Because if you do, they have successfully brought you down to their chaotic level. They have proven that they hold power over your internal emotional state. A highly respected individual operates from a place of unshakable stoicism. When they are confronted with chaos, disrespect, or aggressive behavior, they absolutely do not match the chaotic energy. They become entirely still. They become a massive brick wall that the other person's emotions simply crash against. True power is not the ability to shout the loudest. True power is the ability to remain entirely calm while the world around you is completely losing its mind. When someone hurls an insult at you and you simply stare back at them with a blank, unbothered expression, it completely short-circuits their brain. They were expecting a massive battle, and instead they hit a heavy void. Your complete lack of reaction makes their aggression look incredibly childish and entirely unhinged. You do not need to defend your honor against every barking dog. A lion does not turn around every single time a small dog barks. Do not confuse non-reaction with weakness or submission. Remaining silent does not mean you are accepting the disrespect. It means you are consciously choosing the exact time, place, and method of your response, rather than letting the other person forcefully dictate it. You are responding with cold logic rather than reacting with hot emotion. If a boundary needs to be enforced, you enforce it quietly and decisively, without a single drop of anger in your voice. To build this emotional armor, you must master the space between the stimulus and your response. When someone triggers you, your heart rate spikes and your brain immediately floods with adrenaline. Your biological instinct is to fight back. You must learn to ruthlessly override that exact biological impulse. When you feel the anger rising, do not open your mouth. Take one deep, incredibly slow breath. Force your physical body to relax. Drop your shoulders, unclench your jaw, and look at the situation objectively, as if you are watching a movie play out from the ceiling of the room. Recognize that their disrespect is almost never actually about you. It is entirely about their own deep insecurities, their own bad day, and their own massive lack of emotional control. You do not have to absorb their toxicity. You can simply observe it, step entirely out of the way, and let it pass right by you. When you refuse to react, you project a highly intimidating aura of absolute sovereignty. People will quickly learn that their emotional games do not work on you. They will naturally begin to treat you with an immense level of caution and respect, simply because they know they cannot manipulate your mind. Become the calm in the center of the storm. Chapter 6. The Physics of Presence. Long before you utter a single syllable, the room has already made a firm decision about exactly how much respect you deserve. Human beings are deeply primal creatures. Our brains are biologically hardwired to assess status, confidence, and hierarchy within milliseconds of seeing another person. We do this entirely by reading physical cues. If you walk into a room with your shoulders slumped, your eyes glued to the floor, and your hands nervously fidgeting with your phone, you are broadcasting a massive signal of low status. You are physically apologizing for simply taking up space. This brings us to the sixth law of commanding respect. You must master the absolute physics of physical presence. 80% of respect is visually communicated before you ever open your mouth. It is entirely about the mechanics of your body language, your eye contact, and the exact cadence of your voice. Let us start with physical space. High-status individuals absolutely do not shrink. They do not fold their arms tightly across their chest or cross their legs in a highly defensive posture. They confidently claim the space around them. They sit comfortably, they stand entirely upright, and they keep their posture open. When you physically expand your posture, you are not just signaling confidence to the room. You are actually signaling confidence to your own nervous system. Next, we must address the critical issue of frantic movement. Anxious people move incredibly fast. They rush their steps, they nod their heads rapidly when someone else is speaking, and their hands are in constant nervous motion. They move as if they are entirely afraid of wasting other people's time. A highly respected individual moves through the world at their own deliberate pace. They move slowly because they know the world will wait for them. Unhurried movement is the ultimate physical manifestation of absolute authority. When you slow down your physical movements, you immediately project a deeply grounded energy. Stop the rapid nodding. Stop shifting your weight constantly from one foot to the other. Plant your feet firmly on the ground. Keep your hands entirely still and move with distinct, undeniable purpose. This exact same principle applies entirely to your eye contact. Eye contact is the absolute currency of human connection and dominance. When someone speaks to you, you must look them directly in the eyes. When you are speaking to them, you hold that exact same gaze. If you constantly look away, stare at your shoes, or let your eyes dart nervously around the room, you project immense insecurity. You look as though you do not believe your own words. Holding eye contact can feel highly intimidating at first, but it is an absolute, non-negotiable habit. You do not need to aggressively stare someone down, but you absolutely must not be the first person to nervously look away. Hold the gaze, soften your facial expression, and let them feel the complete weight of your unwavering attention. Finally, we must talk about the tone and the cadence of your voice. When people are nervous, their vocal pitch naturally rises. They speak entirely from their throat, and they rush through their sentences. They also end their statements with a slight upward inflection, making every sentence sound like a desperate question. You must consciously lower the pitch of your voice. Speak from your chest, not from your throat. Slow down your speaking cadence by at least 20%. Take deliberate, heavy pauses between your sentences. When you speak slowly, you force the entire room to slow down and listen to you. You are subconsciously telling them that your words are highly valuable and that you absolutely will not be rushed. Mastering the physics of presence is entirely within your control. Stand tall, move deliberately, hold the gaze, and speak with a low, unhurried resonance. When you master your physical vehicle, you instantly command the respect of every single room you enter. Chapter 7. The Shield of Competence. We are constantly told by modern culture to simply fake it until we make it. We are advised to dress for the job we want, project blind confidence, and aggressively demand a seat at the table, regardless of whether or not we have actually earned it. While basic confidence is certainly important, faking it has a very hard ceiling. You can dress perfectly, hold unwavering eye contact, and master your physical presence. But the moment you are asked to actually deliver results under massive pressure, the illusion shatters. The world has zero tolerance for an empty suit. This brings us to the 7th law of commanding respect. You must build an absolute shield of undeniable competence. Think about the professionals who command the absolute highest level of respect in our society. The elite surgeons, the top-tier engineers, the master craftsmen. They do not have to beg people to listen to them. They do not have to raise their voices or manipulate the room. Their respect is entirely guaranteed by their extreme level of skill. When you are exceptionally good at what you do, you become completely undeniable. People might not like your personality. They might disagree with your politics, and they might even envy you. But they are absolutely forced to respect your output. Fake confidence requires a massive audience to survive. True competence requires absolutely zero validation. Competence is the ultimate silencer of disrespect. When your results speak entirely for themselves, you no longer need to exhaust your energy trying to convince people of your immense value. The scoreboard does the talking for you. To build this shield, you must become ruthlessly dedicated to the pursuit of mastery. Most people are completely satisfied with being average. They learn exactly enough to collect their paycheck, and then they stop pushing themselves. They dabble in 5 different skills without ever mastering a single one. You must do the exact opposite. You must pick your primary domain, put your head down, and do the quiet, unglamorous work required to reach the top 1%. You must read the books nobody else is reading. You must practice the fundamentals when everyone else is sleeping. You must embrace the friction of learning deeply complex systems. There is a fascinating psychological phenomenon known as the halo effect. When people witness you performing one specific task with absolute brilliance, they naturally assume you are highly intelligent and capable in all other areas of your life as well. Your extreme competence in one area bleeds over into your entire persona, elevating your overall status in the eyes of everyone you meet. Furthermore, true competence completely destroys your own internal insecurities. Imposter syndrome is often just your brain correctly recognizing that you have not done the work yet. But when you have put in thousands of hours of deliberate practice, your confidence is no longer a fragile act. It is a highly rational assessment of your own capabilities. You know exactly what you can do, and therefore, nobody can tell you who you are. Stop telling people about your grand plans. Stop trying to look highly successful on social media. Put your ego aside, step into the shadows, and focus entirely on becoming dangerously good at your craft. When you finally emerge with undeniable skills, you will never have to ask for respect again. It will simply be handed to you. Chapter 8. The Power of Walking Away. In any negotiation, whether it is a multi-million-dollar business deal, a salary review, or a romantic relationship, there is a fundamental law of leverage. The person who holds the absolute most power in the room is always the person who needs the outcome the least. Most people navigate their lives operating from a profound place of scarcity. They cling desperately to terrible jobs because they are entirely terrified they will never find another one. They stay in highly toxic relationships because the thought of being alone is completely unbearable to them. And because they are so deeply afraid of loss, they will tolerate an immense amount of disrespect simply to maintain the status quo. This brings us to the 8th and final law of commanding respect. You must master the absolute power of walking away. If the people around you know, without a shadow of a doubt, that you will never leave them, they have absolutely zero incentive to treat you with respect. Why would they change their behavior if there are zero consequences for their actions? Your presence is entirely guaranteed, which means your value has dropped to zero. To command ultimate respect, you must cultivate a mindset of absolute detachment. This does not mean you do not care about your work, your friends, or your partner. It means you recognize that your own self-respect and your own peace of mind are infinitely more valuable than any external attachment. The moment you are entirely willing to walk away from a bad deal is the exact moment you become completely unmanipulable. Before you enter any high-stakes situation, you must establish a firm walk-away point. You must decide, with absolute clarity, exactly what you will accept and exactly what you will not tolerate. And the very second the situation crosses that line, you must pack your bags and leave. No dramatic arguments, no empty threats. You simply remove your presence. There is a fascinating paradox that occurs when you genuinely exercise this power. Often, The exact moment you turn your back and prepare to walk out the door is the exact moment the other party suddenly offers you everything you were originally asking for. They suddenly respect your boundaries because they finally realize that your boundaries are real. They respect the absolute strength it takes to walk into the unknown. However, you cannot fake this step. You cannot use the threat of leaving as a cheap manipulation tactic. If you threaten to quit your job and your boss calls your bluff and you show up to work the very next day, you have entirely destroyed your reputation. You will never, ever be respected in that building again. Your walk-away must be absolutely genuine. How do you build the courage to walk away? You build it through options, and you build it through the competence we discussed in the previous chapter. If you are exceptionally skilled, you know you can easily find another job. If you have built a profound level of self-respect, you know you will be perfectly fine sitting alone in an empty room. Your ability to walk away is your ultimate shield. It is the final, unbreakable boundary. When you no longer operate from a place of desperate need, you project an aura of absolute freedom. Stop clinging to people and situations that continuously drain your energy and disrespect your boundaries. Let go of the heavy anchor of scarcity. When you finally prove to the world that you are willing to walk away from the table, the world will start offering you a much better seat. Conclusion: the ultimate return. You now hold the absolute blueprint. 8 fundamental laws. 8 profound shifts in your psychology that will permanently alter the way the world interacts with you. We have dismantled the deeply flawed idea that respect is something you can simply ask for, politely negotiate, or earn by being a harmless people-pleaser. We have established that your external reality is a direct reflection of your internal standard. We have explored the immense gravity of your silence, the unyielding currency of your integrity, and the absolute necessity of building a shield of extreme competence. But knowing these 8 laws is entirely different from living them. Tomorrow morning, you are going to face a choice. Someone is going to test your boundaries. Someone is going to ask you to do something that severely compromises your time, your energy, or your self-respect. Your biological instinct will scream at you to just say yes. It will tell you to avoid the conflict, to be agreeable, and to keep the peace at all costs. That is the exact moment you must remember everything you have learned in this audiobook. You must choose the friction of being respected over the temporary comfort of being liked. Understand that as you begin to implement these laws, some people in your life will become incredibly upset with you. The people who benefited heavily from your lack of boundaries will accuse you of being cold, selfish, or difficult. Let them be upset. Their reaction is absolutely not your responsibility. You are not building a life designed to make manipulators feel comfortable. You are building a life of absolute sovereignty. Do not fear the loss of people who only valued you for what they could extract from you. Fear the loss of yourself. As you strip away the desperate need for external validation, a profound silence will enter your life. You will stop over-explaining your decisions. You will stop shrinking your physical presence to make others feel big. You will look people directly in the eyes, speak with absolute clarity, and move through the world entirely unbothered by the chaotic noise around you. This is the ultimate return on your investment in self-mastery. When you finally respect yourself enough to walk away from anything that diminishes your value, the world will have absolutely no choice but to rise to your standard. Stop apologizing for taking up space. Stop negotiating your boundaries. Draw your line in the sand today. Stand firmly behind it and let the world completely adjust to the new version of you. The era of being overlooked is permanently over. This concludes our journey today. Thank you for listening. If you found value in this, please leave a like. It really helps the channel. I'd also love to hear your favorite takeaway in the comments below. Subscribe for more audiobooks, and I'll see you in the next one.